That's all doing.
Did you get it?
I got it. We're
right.
good.
Hey, welcome to Facebook Live Red Zone Extra. I am here with Herbie Teope, Sam McDowell, Vahe Gregorian, and or Sam Mellinger will be around later when they finish wrapping up their columns. We're here to talk about the Chiefs' 31-24 loss to the Houston Texans today, the second straight loss for the Chiefs at home. Guys, usually we start with some sort of philosophical, why. I wanted to get into it statistically today, all right? So Chiefs lose again, 31-24. Here's some numbers for you. Number of plays run today, Houston Texans 83, the Chiefs 47. Time of possession, the Houston Texans 39 minutes, 48 seconds time of possession. The Chiefs would be at 20 minutes and 12 seconds. I don't know if I've ever seen a disparity.
The worst ever for the Chiefs at home here at Arrowhead Stadium.
I didn't know that. That's a great stat. I didn't think in an NFL, that's something you see in a FBS versus FCS type of game. You don't see that in the NFL. That was amazing. And then the Texans had 472 yards of total offense, which is the most surrendered by the Chiefs in a game this year. So with that statistical backdrop, I guess my question is this fixable? Do you think, Herbie? Is it fixable?
Well, the good news is it's week 6. So you still have another half of the season to play out. But Blair, you're absolutely correct. The disparity in plays is disparity in the time of possessions. And we're starting to sound like a broken record here because this is something that we harped on way back, I think in week 4 in Detroit, my first game back here on the beat here, when the Lions just ran all over the Chiefs. Last week, the Colts did it. This week, it was the Texans' turn, and we knew it was going to be a test because the Texans entered this game ranked 10th in the league in rushing. They ran 41 times for 192 yards. 41 times. That says you have no fear of the Chiefs' defense. Hey, we're going to run it down your throat. You know it's coming. You have to stop it, and they just could not stop it. And then, of course, you have Deshaun Watson, who attempted 42 passes, but a lot of those passes came off of play action from what I saw because they just ran the ball so effectively. You'd like to think this is fixable. Again, it's only week 6. You still have half the season to go. The Chiefs do sit on a 4-2 record, so they still have a winnable record, but you have to address these issues. Like Sam said before we went live, this defense cannot win in January in the playoffs if it continues down this path, and you like to think they're going to fix it.
This was, hey, look, this was no ordinary running back and rushing. This was Carlos Hyde now,
Barry Sanders.
Yeah, I was going to say, what did he finish with, 116?
116, yeah.
The fourth best rushing total for Carlos Hyde in a game in his 70th NFL game was against the Chiefs today. It's like Frank Clark said afterwards, they're making a lot of running backs and a lot of opposing offenses just look good. Look awesome was his word. We're making teams look awesome. And teams, look, the Texans were a team we know that had good offense. They showed it last week against the Falcons, putting up 53 and almost 600 yards of total offense. And we didn't think the Chiefs had a good defense coming into the game. But I don't know, Sam, what it shouldn't have been this, right?
Yeah, to me, you sort of rate your level of concern for what it was after the Colts game. And it wasn't a great loss last week, but I don't know that I would have said that if you're a Chiefs fan, you should have been super concerned about it. I mean, everybody loses. Nobody goes undefeated. But this week, the reason I think you have to increase whatever number you were on the scale is that they got beat the exact same way they got beat last week.
Keep away football.
And the fact that there's now a trend to how they're losing games, both offensively and defensively, that's what I think raises the level of concern. I mean, they can't stop the run, and they know it's coming.
Well, until week 5 of this season, I think we were all under the assumption that whatever ailed the Chiefs anywhere else, in their, what they do, you always had Patrick Mahomes to bail them out. You had the gunslinger, the 50 touchdown, 5,000-yard guy who could go out and win a game for you, and that just hasn't happened the last 2 weeks.
And what else? When you look at the Chiefs as a whole, all 3 units, and obviously there's multiple facets of every unit. So we talk about the run and the pass, offensively and defensively. And Blair, you do the grades. What are they doing well right now outside of Patrick Mahomes?
And I didn't give them a C, I think, is what I gave the passing offense today for a couple of reasons. They're not doing anything really well right now. They're not running the ball well.
Yeah.
So they're forced to throw, and Mahomes is still a little bit.
I thought, and Vahe asked if he comes today. He asked Andy Reid about the injury, and he asked it in a way as not should he or shouldn't he be out there, because of course he was out there today, so they think he should be out there. They think he's healthy enough to play. Mahomes says he's healthy enough to play, but he asked, is it affecting his mechanics at all? And because I thought there were a couple plays where it did look like he was throwing off of his back foot when he didn't need to throw off his back foot, and you wondered if he was avoiding that plant foot at all. So the company line is that this guy's healthy, he can play, he can still scramble around, he can still move, but our eyes, I think, are telling us something different.
There were a couple times, too, and I know we were, because the three of us sit together in the press box, there were a couple times where it looked like he could have scrambled for some yards, and he just didn't take off like you would expect him to.
Two glaring plays, the touchdown to Tyreek Hill, and maybe the pass is a better play there anyway, because Hill was open, but God, he had room to easily get across the goal line. And then a play where he ends up throwing it into traffic to Byron Pringle, and that play worked out because Pringle breaks the tackle, and I think it's 19 yards out of it. Mahomes had the entire right half of the field, and from our bird's eye view up here, you could see that whole side was open for him to run, and he looked over there too and decided to try and make that pass. If he's healthy, I think there's no doubt he's taken off there.
All right. Hey, and part of the deal here is we want to know what you guys think about the Chiefs. Send us your questions, comments, and
complaints.
Hit the emoji button and let us know how you really feel about this. Hey, Larry, good to hear from you tonight. So we'll get to comments and questions as we go on, but there are a couple other topics I want to cover first. Specific moments in the game that even as poorly as the Chiefs played today, defensively, and as incomplete an offensive game as they had, I think the game turned on a couple of key moments. Yeah. And you wrote, Sam, about one of them. Let's just set it up, okay? The Chiefs are leading 17-9. It's early in the second quarter, and they're at the 32, right? Is it at the 32?
First and 10, yeah.
First and 10 at the 32. They punch in a touchdown here. It's 24-9, and that...
And they were rolling at that point.
And rolling, and about to make the Texans maybe one-dimensional, right?
Yes.
But then something happens that hasn't happened all year.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes throws an interception, but it was a bizarre circumstance. Take us through it.
I mean, they initially called the flag on Travis Kelce getting clearly interfered with in some sort, whether you want to say that's illegal contact holding or what they call defensive pass interference. And you think it all sounds like the same thing, but because they called defensive pass interference, it allowed what happened next to happen, which was they picked up the flag because they said the ball wasn't to the receiver that they called the defensive pass interference on. And what's so bizarre about it, because I thought missed calls happened throughout the game. But I think the Chiefs were more frustrated with that because they were factually inaccurate on that aspect of it, which is the pass was to Travis Kelce. Mahomes told us after the game. Kelce was supposed to do an out route, a double move.
Right.
Yeah.
Fake that out route, and then do a little bit of a fly pattern in the vicinity. I still think when you go back and look at it, if that's the route, he overthrows him. But I don't think by as much as what people think. I think it is in kind of his vicinity there, and in which case your receiver gets clearly bumped more than 5 yards down the field. You try and throw the ball to him, and they pick up the flag. I think they were frustrated by the explanation, and Andy Reid was asked about it. And to his credit, I mean, we all know the rules. They can't really complain about officials. And it was Todd Lebo, who none of us on here like, who asked Andy Reid if he received any sort of explanation, and then he asked, and did it make sense? And he said, well, I received an explanation.
End of sentence.
So, you're right.
Next thought.
So, obviously he didn't disagree with the call. You can see that on the broadcast from the TVs we watched up here. But I think that was the element they were most frustrated with was, and plus, when you look at the replay, he's held, grabbed, however you want to say it, before the pass was thrown. In which case they should have called it illegal contact or holding before that. And if they call that, it doesn't matter where the ball's thrown, that flag is standing.
Yeah. What did you see? Did it make sense to you?
No, that's why I actually tweeted out, hey, I have nothing for you. We need an Al Riveron explanation in 3, 2, 1. Which, of course, we'll just watch for Twitter to see what Al Riveron has to say about this. But that was a game changer because, number one, it took away the momentum of the Chiefs there. You're absolutely correct, Brad. I mean, Blair. I said Brad. You're absolutely correct because they score there. They score a touchdown. Now all of a sudden the momentum stays with the Chiefs, and you do make the Houston Texans one-dimensional. What happens after that? Texans march right down the field and get a touchdown, and all of a sudden the game has changed. It really changed because they also scored again just shortly before the end of the half, and now the game is what it became.
Well, the feeling of the game certainly changed. I thought the Chiefs reacted so well to coming off a loss, which is what I thought was going to happen. They lose last week in disappointing fashion. I just thought they'd come out with a lot of energy. And then Tyreek Hill, of course, is suited up. And you talk about a boost. First series ends with the touchdown pass to him, and he's doing backflips in the end zone. And
what shoulder injury?
Yeah, shoulder injury. Come on. And then on the first defensive snap of the game, Carlos Hyde fumbles. Frank Clark, I don't know how much credit Frank Clark should get for that. Did he slap it away like a basketball steal?
Yeah, he kind of swiped his arm across the ball and it popped out. Yeah.
So even that, is a positive start for the Chiefs. And start well on offense, start well on defense, and then the Kelce play happens, and the Chiefs This Chiefs team, at least today, wasn't good enough to overcome that. So, hey, Sam.
How you doing, Sam?
Sam's here.
How's it going, guys?
It's good to see you. Good to see you. We were just talking about the Kelce play, the pass interference, pass interference, then picked up the flag, and how that was a momentum changer. We thought that was one of the two kind of big swing moments in the game. The other one, the end of the first half, right?
For sure.
End of the first half, it's 17-16 Chiefs. They get Juan Thornhill gets an interception they go for it on 4th and 1. The Texans do 4th and 1. I thought it was a terrible call to throw the ball deep in the end zone. Juan Thornhill makes his first interception, and on the very next play,
You'd rather he didn't. First of all,
well, that's right. I mean, but a rookie in his sixth NFL game, he sees the ball in the air. He's gonna try to.
I'm not gonna lie. I probably would have caught it, but I still tweeted that he should not have.
But I actually asked him about that play after the game in the locker room, and he said. He just turned his head, the ball was there, and he did what he's trained to do. He made the play. So that's the reason why he caught the ball.
Puts the ball on the 20 instead of where it would have been, the 32 or something like that. It cost him 10, 12
I think it was
yards.
at the 40.
Was it the 40? Was it the 40?
I think it was the 40. That's why they were going for it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So you're right. He should have knocked the ball down. But anyway, it's a Chiefs ball. If they take a knee with 32 seconds to go, they go into halftime up 17-16. Instead, they drop back. They're in attack mode. Mahomes drops back. The pocket collapses. Sack, fumble, and the Texans are in the end zone on the next play or next two plays, whatever. I thought that, and then Houston gets the ball to start the second half.
Yes, that was huge.
I thought that was just a big time. Now, even though the Chiefs ended up stopping Houston the first possession of the second half and then went ahead 24-23, I just thought, what if the Chiefs had been able to take a lead at halftime, it would have been a different feel to the game.
Yeah, and I know there's some people that as soon as that fumble happened said, why not just take a knee and take the lead? But if they're taking a knee, all of us are saying, you've got Patrick Mahomes. And plus, Houston's getting the ball coming out of halftime. Absolutely the right move to try and put points on the board. It's just a play that they screwed up.
I'll tell you what, I just look at it with with the offensive line in a state of flux. You haven't been able to run the ball.
Yeah.
I just don't know if that was the call to have him drop back and create. There was a lot of, I don't know what the play was, and I don't think anybody asked Andy after the game I don't think that was on the quote sheet at all. Asking Andy about that moment or that play. So I don't know what the idea was there. But anyway, it was a shift. And then, of course, if you wanted to come right down to it, game on the line, it's 4th and 3 from the 27, and Texans kicker had already missed a field goal and an extra point. And Bill O'Brien sends him back. He looks like he was going to come out. They send him back, and they go 4th and 3 against this Chiefs defense. We can pick that up. And lo and behold, with a zero blitz, a bullet to DeAndre Hopkins and two knees, and the game is over. So, just big plays. The big plays, turning point plays that were made by the Texans today. So, Sam, what'd you write about?
I wrote about another kind of turning point play. But first of all, like that decision, that 4th and 2 or 3 or whatever it was to go for it. Excuse me, I'm so excited. there's an old saying, like in baseball, about like the hitters will tell you how your pitches are. You know, in some ways,
right.
like the opponent will tell you
Yeah.
what you are. And to go for it, I know the kid missed 2 kicks and might get cut tomorrow, but to go for it in that situation is just.
It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and why wouldn't you? Like,
No, of course.
we're all like, yeah, of course.
Well,
go for it,
all I'm thinking about is how they're going to pick up the first down. You
Right.
know, it's not whether they're going to pick
Right.
it up.
But still, I mean, even with a struggling kicker, you still give him what, at least 65% to hit a 46-yard field
Yeah.
goal. So I think they got a better than 65% chance of converting a 4th and 3.
Yeah, it's funny. There's no respect being shown by opposing offenses to the Chiefs defense, and you walk around that locker room, and no defender is saying like, they need to respect us or anything.
Yeah.
The words coming out of their mouth are, I'd be doing the same thing. I mean, you know, not literally, but that's basically
Yeah.
the point. I mean, there was another, I think it was a 4th and 2, or not a 4th down, I'm sorry. It was a 2nd and 2 or something like that, from 2nd and goal from the 2. And they isolated, this is the lead of my column, like Deshaun was an RPO, but Deshaun Watson comes out to the left, and it's just a one-on-one drill with him and Frank Clark, you know, the guy that has the contract, but actually, you know, as much as we've been talking about his pass rushing, he's pretty good against the run. He can tackle. He's strong. And the quarterback slipped through him. Clark made the contact at the 3, but his shoulder was kind of, you know, tilted inside, and Watson just spun in and got it. And to me, it was just, look, there's a million things wrong with this team right now, starting with the offensive line, I feel like. But that was just such a flashing neon light symbol about what's wrong with this team. You know, game on the line. That was the go-ahead touchdown. Proved to be the winning touchdown, I guess. Game on the line. The quarterback runs through your highest-paid player.
Yeah, and we looked at the stat sheet after the game, and it stood out because Frank Clark's only tackle was that very first play where he gets credit for a tackle because he forced the fumble. And I think the next drive coming out defensively, it looked like he had more energy just before the play even started than what's typical for him, trying to get the crowd involved in it, talking to his teammates. And I thought maybe we were going to kind of see a breakout game from Frank Clark after that first play, and doesn't get on the stat sheet again. The rest 80, and like you said, Blair, he had 82 plays to do it.
One of the most sort of demoralizing parts of this is that's kind of the same game as last Sunday night.
Yes.
They gave up 192, I think, rushing yards. This won't surprise anybody, but their last 4 opponents have averaged 190 yards rushing. Mahomes was really good before the ankle. I think I had him at 9 of 19 after, you know, it looked like the ankle was injured. It's just sort of the same stuff happening over and over. The line stinks. And, you know, part of like the NFL is based on adjustments, right? It is the most, you got to adjust kind of league that we have in professional sports, and Andy Reid's not doing it. He doesn't, and I'm not saying I have the answer, by the way. Although I do think they were going pretty well when they were doing a lot of screen passes. That's just me.
Offensive coordinator.
Yeah, but you know, he doesn't have an answer, obviously, for better protection. And you know, we're going on 4 straight years of this team not being able to stop the run. I mean, different coordinators, all different personnel. Daniel Sorensen is the only player on this team to have played for a Chiefs team that finished better than 25th against the run.
Yeah,
2015.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
8th. They were 8th against the run that year.
Yeah.
And so we were all in the locker room after the game, and you're right, Sam. I thought, you know, Tyrann Mathieu, Frank Clark, Alex Okafor, whoever you talked to, and you talked to a few other guys, they all owned up to it.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's shirking responsibility here. They all owned it. But I will say this, and you tweeted this, I think right before halftime, or maybe just after halftime. You know, the defense got him 3 possessions today.
Yeah.
There were 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery. That's a season-high takeaways for the Chiefs. You know how many points the Chiefs got off of those?
I'm going to say 0.
3.
Oh, they got 3.
They got the field goal on the Frank Clark fumble, so fumble recovery.
Yeah, a drive that went -5
Negative
yards.
5. So the next 2, the Thornhill pick in the end zone, the next play they give it away.
Yeah.
And the other one was the Charvarius Ward, great pick.
Great play,
Incredible play.
And they go 3 and out after that. So your defense, which doesn't stop anybody, gets you the ball, and they can't take advantage of any of that. I thought that was sort of an unappreciated part of the game, and I was going to ask some of the defensive guys about that, but I don't think they were in the mood to feel good about this game. But they did get takeaways today.
Reed said that in his opening statement. He pointed to two things, or I think it was three things. He pointed to penalties he thought cost him, time of possession, and what you just said, not capitalizing on turnovers.
Yeah.
If Patrick Mahomes' defense gets 3 takeaways, that's got to be a win.
Yes, it does. And I don't know. I hated the play calling after the Charvarius Ward interception, the 3 and out. The second one was the second play was a deep sideline to Demarcus Robinson that never really had a chance. And I can't remember the other two, but I just remember thinking at that point, gosh, you got a 1-point lead. They just got you the ball. They preserved a 1-point lead with that end zone pick. Mm-hmm. This is what you're going to do with that? Yeah. Meanwhile, the Chiefs gave it away twice, and the Texans scored 2 touchdowns on that.
The Chiefs also dodged a couple of bullets. I know Sam McDowell, not Sam Mellinger, Sam actually brought up a couple of good points in the press box during the game. Will Fuller dropped 2 touchdown passes, and if he doesn't drop those touchdown passes, we're not having this discussion because the Texans blow out the Chiefs. But yeah, they got to be able to capitalize on mistakes, and they're just not doing it.
Well, how about the ball?
We still have to do the discussions even when they get blown out.
It's true.
We'll still be here.
But how about the ball that DeAndre Hopkins didn't, Hopkins didn't catch right before
slant,
the slant right before the Charvarius Ward
I don't
touchdown.
think he had a drop last year. I
That
think he went the entire season without a drop.
He may have rolled into the end zone on that, but it would have been 1st and goal at the 1 if he catches it.
Yeah, quite possibly the best receiver in football.
Yes. And they don't catch it. So you're right, Herbie. The Chiefs got a few breaks. Will Fuller had an incredible game last week, and probably will have a terrible grade for this game. So
to get to your point, though, just to kind of throw this out there for discussion, I mean, the Chiefs ran the ball pretty well today, but didn't go to it. And I thought their offense in the second half was sputtering. If you think time of possession is a big deal, that's one way to improve time of possession. I mean, McCoy had 8 carries for 44 yards today. That's 5.5 yards a carry. After not getting a carry last week, which was bizarre, they clearly went to more of McCoy and even more of Darrell Williams. And Damian Williams' snap, we'll see it tomorrow. Herbie will write about it. But his snap count significantly dwindled today.
Doesn't it seem like Andy Reid just has no faith in that offensive line at this
does.
point?
Yeah.
They've run the ball a total of 25 times the last 2 weeks combined.
Yeah.
And they were playing from ahead most of today.
Carlos
not
Hyde ran 26 times today.
Yeah. The last time he had 116 yards, the last time he had that many yards was 5 teams ago for him.
Oh, wow.
That's a stat.
No, so I don't want to put this all in the defense. Is what I was trying to get at. I think that I think one-dimensional was an issue for the Chiefs today on offense. And as much as Tyreek Hill gave them a burst and some energy, a spark, there wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough offensively for them. And hell, when you only run 47 plays
Against 83.
Against 83, you're kind of limited in your options.
And they ran the first 6 plays of the game, and the Chiefs had the ball first, so it was literally a 2-to-1 ratio after that. But to go back to Tyreek, because I think the three of us kind of estimated he played about half the plays, maybe a little bit more than half, but I think he will make a difference once he's out there 100% of the time. And we saw that today. There was a difference when he was on the field. And I know you talked to some guys
stark difference.
That said the same thing.
Yeah, I like what Darren Lee said. It's like watching a video game out there. And that's kind of like what he brought. Look, the first play they announced immediately, he's back because we're going deep to him. And if not for Patrick Mahomes getting his arm hit as he launched it, that might have been the start off the game with a deep touchdown pass. But he's out there, and he certainly puts pressure on the defense. We see it. All Chiefs fans know it, and his teammates were raving about it. It's exciting to have him back. And I like what LaShawn McCoy told me. I said, what does it feel like to have him out there? And he's just like, wow, I'm excited. He's excited. He's an electrifying player. But having that element in there it certainly boosted the Chiefs' offense. I was kind of surprised that after the 17-3 lead, they only scored 7 points the rest of the game.
Yeah.
It was like, what the heck's going on here?
Yeah,
that was
which again reflects sort of what they did last week, right? They had 10 points on their first 2 possessions and didn't score after that. How much of the defensive problem today can be assigned to the absence of Chris Jones, Xavier Williams, and Anthony Hitchens, who were all started last week and lost to injury in that game?
I don't know how much you can assign to that, because even when they were in there, they still struggled against the run. I'm sure you can probably point to, you're missing out on Chris Jones, who's definitely a leader amongst the defense. But even when Jones was in there, they still gave up a lot of yards to the Colts. They gave up a lot of yards to the Lions. They gave up a lot of the yards to the Ravens. Shall we go on? I mean, that's the way it's been.
The difference is more, you can plug in anybody in that Chiefs defense and they won't stop the run. They've proven that. But there was no pressure.
None.
Like just no pressure.
That's where Chris Jones.
Yeah.
Zero sacks for a guy that had been sacked, 13 times, I think?
No, 18 times
18
this year.
this year.
Mm-hmm. Carolina got him 6 times.
They only hit him twice.
And last
42
week,
dropbacks.
I think it was last week, he had the first game without any sacks in a really long time.
Right.
But I saw a stat that he had gotten the ball out quicker than he ever had in his career. I don't think they were getting the ball out that quick today.
So.
They were,
and they didn't come
he was
close
doing
to a
whatever the hell
sack.
he
Did they
wanted.
come close to
They
a
did
sack
not come
today?
close to
I
a
don't
sack.
remember.
I don't remember them.
I don't remember them being
I thought
close.
maybe part of the telling thing about the Texans offense today was they did a lot of routes in the flat, which is sort of just get a man one-on-one, and it showed that they didn't think the Chiefs could tackle. And they couldn't.
Can't confirm.
There were so many one-on-one matchups where they were like, let's just get even like our third string tight end at one point out in the flat, one-on-one with Darren Lee, and just completely whiffs on the tackle.
Yeah,
He even,
tackling was
to Lee's
atrocious.
credit though, he did accept responsibility for that because after the game, he told me in the locker room he made some critical misses. That was his exact word. I made some critical misses on some tackles. So they understand that they're not tackling well, and it goes back to your earlier question: is it fixable? It's week 6. I would like to think it's fixable, but you have to show us.
I want you to expand on that a little bit. You've been covering the NFL for a few years now, and you're right. It is week 6, right? There's 10 weeks to go. Andy Reid talked about it in the press conference. But this is a new defense, right? It's a new scheme, a new coordinator. But I saw some things earlier in the season that I thought were encouraging signs.
I did
the
too.
game in Oakland, I thought, and we thought Brashard Breeland had been playing well early, and now I just can't identify anybody on the defense who you
He's had
put
2 really bad weeks back to back here all of a sudden.
Tyrann Matthews had
I think he's playing
better than he did earlier
well.
in the year.
Yeah, Juan Thornhill has been a talented rookie. There's been some bad moments, some bad snaps, and some good ones, but it's
kind of like
it
McCole
is
Hardman on the
slim.
offense.
The linebackers have just been atrocious.
Just non-existent almost. Really.
Yeah. And I actually think the corners have held up. They take a lot of grief, and a lot of it they deserve, I guess. But I think the coverage has been okay. League
The
average.
cornerback coverage, because the linebackers.
Right, it's a fair
Damian
point,
Wilson was covering the first 2 games. I thought stood out at how well he was covering, and the last 2 weeks it's kind of been the theme of everybody else. I think he's whiffed on a lot of coverage plays.
Yeah.
So, then when do you start to panic on this thing? I mean, when do you start to really grow concerned? Look, the Colts might end up being a good team. The Texans are probably a good team. We think the Ravens are a good team. I don't think the Broncos are, so we'll see what happens Thursday night. But look, they've got the Packers and the Vikings right after that.
Yeah, a tough schedule coming up too.
Yes.
So
at what point do you start, if you're a Chiefs fan, start really kind of worrying about this thing isn't going to get fixed? It's not.
Yeah.
Is it mid-season?
Yeah, I would.
Mid-season?
I would say mid-season. I mean, and I know Sam's going to throw something at me when I mention this. When I was in New Orleans, I remember the Saints a couple years ago. They started out very slow. Their pass defense was horrendous. Probably about after the 4th or 5th game, they got it together and they really shut down against the pass. So you like to think after the first couple of games, you identify the trends that are really hurting you, and then you fix it. But what concerns me is, and I asked this question last week to some of you guys, what is the identity of this defense? I just don't see it.
Giving up rushing yards. It's very clear.
Okay, a positive identity. I don't see a positive identity out there. I go back to my first time around with the Chiefs. You could always put your finger on Derek Johnson is not going to allow this to happen.
Right.
Yeah, Justin Houston, Tamba Hali is not going to allow this to happen. I look at this Chiefs defense right now, and I'm trying to find that guy who's going to say enough is enough. Guys, we got to get this together. And I just don't see it.
That 2015 season, when they finished 8th against the run, that was the last year of good Derek Johnson, wasn't it? When he was doing that ninja move around every blocker.
And that was the Eric Berry return from the Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yeah.
And he was great that year.
Yeah. And when he played well, you also had Mike DeVito play well, Jay Howard. Who else was on that line? Dontari Poe. I mean, they all rallied around that leader. And I'm looking on this Chiefs defense right now, and I can't find it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the two guys on the line.
Tron Matthew has had some leadership moments that this guy is right about. Can we invite this?
Yes. We are.
Stand in.
I've got
Come on over here. We're bringing in the closer, Vahe Gregorian. Summon. Come on over this side, Dave.
Here I am to save the day.
That's Mighty Mouse. Yeah, see? You know who Mighty
For you
Mouse
kids,
is?
you Sams that are.
Sam doesn't
too
know who
young to
Mighty
know.
Mouse is.
All right,
You knew
so
that? Sorry.
what was your column? What'd you write?
I wrote about Patrick Mahomes and the question of are we looking at a short-term, not desperation, but solution in continuing to play him with this obviously hobbled ankle and at the expense of the longer term? I mean, I just think it's a question. It's sort of a rhetorical question. I don't think there's any one answer to it. But I do think this, and you kind of shrugged, Sam, when we were talking about this earlier, like, yeah, he gets aggravating at every game, and he is.
Yeah.
And sometimes notably so, and we saw it quite visibly last week with, I still can't remember which of his linemen stepped on him, but I'm not ever sure we saw anything but the shoe stepping on him. Then today, a similar sort of play where he went down hard with two Texans on him, and you could see in the replay the ankle kind of turning under. I don't know. I mean, they keep making the point. Andy's made the point a couple times now about, well, we wouldn't play him basically if we thought it's going to be a cumulative effect. I don't really get how you know that answer though. So
did you suggest sitting him for Denver?
I suggest thinking about it. Here's the problem though, right? The dilemma is this: it's always now, and now the Chiefs are 4-2, and you start thinking, well, need to secure a playoff spot first. But I don't know. I don't know what to expect out of him on Thursday in Denver. He's not a guy who's ever going to say, I'm just too hurt to go. He will never say that.
Well, and I don't know what a plan B is for the Chiefs. Even if he remains the quarterback and you try to reduce his risk of further injury. It's not like let's turn it over to the running game because we've got this powerful offensive line and that doesn't exist.
No, right.
So I don't know. It seems to me if you're going to play Patrick Mahomes, you're going to get the Patrick Mahomes experience, and you're not going to alter much game plan, and you're just going to have to do what they did early.
The screens,
right?
Yeah.
Quick throws, slants. I didn't see many of those, one or two.
Despite the suggestion.
Right. So, all right. So let's begin to wrap this up and think about. You know what? We're going to come back on Tuesday and talk about the Chiefs some more. We'll be spinning it forward to Denver, so we'll save Denver talk for Tuesday morning when we come to you from Big O Tires in Olathe. So, what do you leave here feeling about the Chiefs? I'll go back where we started. Is the 12-4 Chiefs, is that kind of off the table now, or is it still division winning 1 or 2 seed in the playoffs? Still the Patriots and the Chiefs. I don't know how I feel about it now. Go ahead, Sam.
He wanted that microphone.
Thank you. Give me back my mic. I'm going to kind of bookend where I started with and kind of go full circle. To me, your level of concern is raised simply because they got beat the exact same way they got beat last week. And if they had lost games the way they lost last year with the Rams and the Seahawks, and I know the defense is at fault in both of those games, but they're losing last-second sort of plays. And here, the last 2 weeks, I felt like the scoreline, they were lucky to be in the game at the end of the game based on the way they had been outplayed over the middle 2 quarters. And exact same thing happened against the Colts last week that happened this week. So to me, that's the headline that I leave here with is I thought it was kind of silly to be concerned last week. The fact that they got beat the exact same way, all of a sudden it seems justified to have a little bit more concern and worry about where this team goes moving forward.
Tell you what, you put those
take it.
You put those stats. You showed me those stats: time of possession, number of plays, total yards, and don't tell me what the score of the game is. I would never have guessed a 7-point game.
Exactly.
That's a 17-point game.
Yeah.
Well, look, along those lines, sort of similar to what Sam said, they go from having this obvious deficiency exposed in a different way last week, and they were going to make it a point of emphasis. And so they go from giving up 180 rushing yards to 192. They go from letting the other team have the ball 37 minutes to letting it have it for 39-48. And as Gary Pinkel would say, oh, by the way, they committed 11 penalties again after that being a point. So these are all the points of emphasis this week, and they also actually committed quite a few more than 11 penalties. Just those were the ones that were enforced.
15 is on the sheet,
Yeah.
so 15 were accepted.
But the thought I come away with the most, and it actually goes back to the Detroit game. At the end of that game, the Chiefs get the ball back with 2:26 left, and again, something we talked about. We're sort of thinking they're going to score. We just don't know how. We don't know what Mahomes will do, how it'll happen, but they'll probably win. And certainly didn't feel that way at the end of this game. And I think that's the difference in how I feel about things right now. I don't really know what to expect now, but I don't have like that faith that they've got it going.
Yeah. What do you think, Herbie?
Yeah, I certainly don't feel like they're firing on all cylinders. I mean, from watching this team from afar before I came back, that was one of the beautiful things about the Chiefs. It's like Mahomes and everybody else always seem to be firing on all cylinders, and now you just see it happening in spurts. It's not happening through all four quarters, and that's a concern. It goes back to what Sam said earlier. This team is not built to win in December December and January the way they're playing now. So if you want to make the playoffs, if you want that showdown with the Patriots, you have to fix these issues, and you have to fix it pretty fast here. If you're still talking about this in Week 8, all bets are off. That's the way I feel.
Yeah, for sure. Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's concern, not panic, right? Like, I do think that more of the problems offensively than appears right now can be fixed if Fisher and Wiley are playing. That left side of the line is just a turnstile right now.
And it's atrocious, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't hurt to have Watkins back either.
Yes, I do think that, but there's still some problems that are going to exist if they're at full strength, especially like defensive. I mean, it used to be an open secret. Now it's not. It's like, put it on billboards about just run the ball. And it's not about time of possession or anything like that. It's just about this is an easy way to move the ball down the field and procure points against the Chiefs. It's just to run the ball.
Right.
Like that's what it's about. And it's just over and over and over they're talking about like it's got an attitude, right? Like it's got you got to step up and just do it. They've been saying the same thing every week, and it's just we're seeing the same thing. That's a concern.
Well, with a crappy defense, they were an offside call from going to the Super Bowl last year. So they appear to have a crappy defense this year. To me, it's been startling the last couple games. They haven't been able to outscore the opponent.
Yeah.
And that's how the Chiefs have won last year. It's how they were winning earlier this year. They got to be able to outscore people. So that's pretty good. Jason Kindred. Chiefs history has taught me to start panicking now.
That's fair.
Well done.
Yeah, it's fair.
Hey, and a lot of you guys want us to talk Brett Veach and maybe roster composition. We'll do that on Tuesday from Big O Tires. There's a tease. So our 9:30 a.m. scheduled Big O Tires will start about 9:45, 9:50, something like that.
Whenever Sam gets there.
We'll wait for the text message. I'm stuck at a stoplight.
GPS says 9:43.
Wish I had a good excuse. That was the best.
All right, so thanks a lot, you guys. Beth, thank you so much for producing, and we'll talk to you guys again on Tuesday.